The lights of Florida and the beaches of Miami. Just 90 miles away lies a world forgotten by time, but not by hatred. For Americans, Cuba has been a forbidden island, a thorn that has been pricking their back for decades. Today, in 2026, this distance is no longer just miles. It is the threshold of a conflict that could lead to World War III. Can you imagine a nuclear threat so close to your home? This is the fear that paralyzed the world in 1962. But this story began in 1959 when a bearded young rebel, Fidel Castro, overthrew Washington's puppet. Before that, Havana was a playground for Americans, but after the revolution, it became an invincible fortress of communism. America took it as a personal insult. The CIA made over 600 plots to kill Castro, but they failed every single time. Then came the 1961 Bay of Pigs operation, a military failure that dragged American prestige through the dirt. This failure pushed Cuba into Moscow's arms, and then happened what no one had ever imagined. The Soviet Union installed nuclear missiles in Cuba. From DC to NYC, every city was just minutes away. Those 13 days when humanity stood on the brink of nuclear annihilation, the world held its breath. A secret deal stopped the war, but it imposed an embargo on Cuba that still stands 60 years later. In Cuba, it's called El Bloqueo, an economic imprisonment that has frozen the island in time. But in 2026, the story is changing. Cuba is no longer just an oppressed island. It's once again the center of the global board. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel recently labeled America a criminal of economic genocide. He says America is intentionally starving the Cuban people to topple the government. Power blackouts and food shortages in Cuba have increased to the point that people are forced onto the streets. Washington calls it a cry for democracy, but Havana calls it an American conspiracy. But that's not the real threat. The real threat is the Russian warships and nuclear submarines reappearing in Cuban ports. In 2026, Russia and China are increasing their presence in Cuba. This is direct interference in America's backyard. U.S. intelligence reports that China is setting up spy bases in Cuba to monitor every movement in Florida. CENTCOM and Cape Canaveral in Florida are now within the reach of these spying thorns. Are we moving toward 1962 Part 2? Is history repeating itself in a more terrifying way? America's stance is that Cuba is a sponsor of terrorism, hence its inclusion in the SSOT list. But analysts say these sanctions are alienating not just Cuba, but all of Latin America from Washington. The biggest result of this tension is the migration crisis. Millions of Cubans are leaving for America. This isn't just an escape from poverty, it's a human tragedy knocking on Washington's door. The Cuban president's recent statement is an open threat. If you won't let us live, we won't let you live in peace. Experts say a social explosion is about to happen in Cuba, and its effects will be felt on the streets of Miami. Can President Biden or his successor end this 60-year enmity, or will this island again become a world war ground? Russia's decision to provide Cuba with the advanced S-400 missile system is like crossing a red line for Washington. This is not just a defense system. It's a direct challenge to American air superiority in the Caribbean. On the other hand, China has forgiven Cuba's debts and gained logistic access to its ports. This means that if needed, the Chinese Navy can anchor just a few kilometers away from Florida. The Cuban people are currently being crushed between two grindstones, hunger on one side, global politics on the other. We just want bread, not nuclear missiles. This is the cry of a common man in the streets of Havana. But will the global powers hear their voice, or will Cuba again become fuel for a proxy war? Some in Washington are talking about military intervention to eliminate the Russian threat. If this happens, it could be more dangerous than the Ukraine war, as it would be right on America's border. Cuba's defense is no longer based just on Castro's ideologies, but on advanced Russian drones and electronic warfare. Will America accept this new reality, or will it try to bring back the old times through force? The impact of this conflict won't be just on politics, but also on the global economy and supply chains. People in Florida are already scared, and property prices in Miami are becoming unstable due to this tension. This turn of history tells us that the 90-mile distance never vanished, it has only deepened. The Cuban president's economic genocide statement could be a final plea or a declaration of a new war. The truth is, Cuba is no longer an island, but a global tripwire. To touch it is to invite destruction. Will humanity escape another nuclear nightmare, or is fate's decision different this time? This silent war between Washington and Havana is now getting loud, and its noise will be heard across the world. To know these deep secrets and changing global politics, stay connected with the Hidden Vault, because history is written in closed rooms, but its impact is felt on the streets. Until next time, goodbye.